Alright, this is the network review. This is for NET-213 Cisco networking, and this will serve as a review of the network project we did in class and also a very good review for the final. Let's get started. In the diagram here, to start off with, we have this group of addresses for each of these networks. Now we calculated these addresses and we end up with that /27. If you look over here, over on the left, those were the 3 bits we borrowed, which initially left us 5 bits. We had a line. This everywhere here was the network. Well, 2 to the 5th is 32, so that gave us 30 hosts. For each of the networks. We then configured a PC to be connected to the network, which then connected to the router. And we did that on all the networks. So at this location too, we also then had to figure an IP address, and that was the default gateway. Now that default gateway, if we look at all of these, that default gateway, that has to be on the network. So this default gateway here, that has to be on the same network right here that all the workstations would be on. And then they'd all have to have the same mask. And then the mask, if we look at these bits right here, the mask on those, if I was to calculate that, 128, 64, and 32. .224, so it's 255, 255, 255, 224. These are all private addresses, that 172.21, and you can look up the private addresses, and we should know the private addresses. Alright. Now, next thing, we'll go in and we'll talk a little bit about the configurations. On this one, we entered the router and we had to use some type of terminal emulating software. Now we use PuTTY. I believe in the curriculum they used Hyper Terminal, or they also referred to that Minicom. There's a number of different ways you can connect and the different priorities in terms of connecting. 9600, and then data bits 8, parity none, stop bits 1, and flow control none. So you use a console cable, so a lot of times on a router you can connect a PC through a console port on the router. Connect in, we type enable, and then that changes us from the user mode to where that pound sign is, and that would be our privileged exec mode. Then we type config T, and this then moves us into a global into our global mode. Okay, so we have global mode, got our example of console in, user mode, # shows we're in privilege exact. Go into configuration, and you'll notice now we're in a specific part of the configuration line. First one was the console, so this allowed us to do the console. VTY, this allows us to telnet. Allows us to telnet to the device. We can put in a banner, and then we configured here. We can exit our configuration, enable, go back into privilege exact, config T, this right here. That automatically encrypts. That would be our password encryption auto when we do an enable secret Cisco. Then that's going to put a password on. The next time we try to go into enable mode, it's going to ask for a password. So then this is the basic configuration, and our next step then is to go in and talk about configuring the interfaces and getting those up. And so that is it for this part.